you so much. Next, we have Ed Nonsent, M4 from Feinberg.
Everybody hear me all right? Everybody with me? All right. Let's assume. As I say this, let's assume medical school is a good metaphor for life, okay? Okay. As I wrote this speech, it was day 1,600 of 1,724 of medical school. And like so many times before, I'm the odd man out. This time, it's because my classmates speak of how fast these years went and how great it was. Meanwhile, I feel like I'm on an island in an hourglass, waiting for a fall through to the other side that seemingly will never come. Now sure, I'm glad I get to do what I love, but this training often felt like time was moving at half speed, or not at all. To my embarrassment, I remember mistaking January for June because the days ran together in one long, numb slog. I'm further embarrassed in retrospect to admit that I got through these 1,600 days via a wave of practiced outward apathy, keeping my dissatisfaction to myself. It gradually became easier just to let things slide and match the apathy I was often met with. I remember, right around day 300 or so, classmates wanting to inspect my black veins, trademark, because of course they were different, right? No one seeing this as problematic, sincerity notwithstanding, blunted my disappointment. It was just me who was bothered, in the inescapable network of one destined to stay that way. And as the days passed and my emotions were more and more suppressed, it became easier to feel powerless, to feel like certain things just won't change. Yet, some things did change in the last fourth of my 1,600-day Hippocratic Odyssey, the last 364 days or so. We had an election of sorts, and I finally got my citizenship after immigrating to this great nation. For the former, I was hit with the same feelings of futility. Of course this happened. Things got too good for too long. Perhaps worse, for the latter, I struggled to remember. What makes America great again? After way more than 1,600 days of being in this country, and despite my Haitian blood of apparently shithole origin, and my melanin, I now have to matter a bit under the laws of this land. I had always expected this would come with some great awakening, like the 10-gallon cowboy hat and sunglasses would economically trickle down to my head from spacious skies. And the feeling of superiority other people had enjoyed since birth would just kick in. Instead, after waiting for 20 years, I felt like I was at the mercy of time again, like I'd been wasting my days waiting for a big change that would never come. As I stewed on this in the courtroom that day in August, the doors feebly swung open. Lo and behold, the judge had arrived in a robe twice his size, and he was easily the oldest man I'd ever seen in my life. He predated not only Twitter and Technicolor, but perhaps the very concepts of time and colors themselves. I geared up for a sermon as long as his robes. Instead, this man sprung to life and schooled me with an energy I'll never forget. "Civics are in crisis," he bellowed. He noted the dual insanity of a modern society that doesn't know its own rules in maintaining decorum and celebrates that ignorance. Just as bad, he continued, was the subsection of the populace that is able to speak but chooses not to, out of a feeling of futility. He noted this seeming end of days came on a wave of practiced apathy. Worse yet, he continued, our perception of time has been affected by our inaction. And as an aside, he certainly has a point. Doesn't it seem like this got really bad and really stupid really quickly? How has it already been almost a year since we could all assume that the president reads books, respects women, and wears a normal-sized tie? I mean, time really flies when you're doing nothing. After he said all that, all us would-be citizens, a group consisting of natives of every country on the planet, were understandably nervous. He was losing us. Fear not, faithful listeners. The judge stuck the landing. Refocusing us, he emphasized that we have tremendous agency, not just as Americans, but as people in a community responsible for itself. That being an American is an action, not a status or a change to who you are. That this country depends on our diverse and compassionate differences, without which the melting pot that we rely on becomes irreversibly stagnant. He also noted he had arranged for voter registration right outside the court, both as a commitment to our long-term civic engagement and to remind us that we matter, even when the powers that be are awfully convincing that we don't. All in all, the judge capped our introduction to this country with a rousing call to action. He reminded us that time may seem fleeting, but the effects of apathy can last forever. And I think that's what's at the core of Dr. King's quotes. The time for action is right now. The future we hope for is being built right now. And right now, that future is no brighter when we stand on the sidelines, convinced that we can't change things around us. We are far from islands and hourglasses or husks of our former hopes and idealism. We all need each other to get through, as life shows us time and time again. And even if it's a lesson some of us need to have, we all have blood in our veins that flows just the same. And I need to participate in that as a part of a flow for the lifeblood and benefit of my medical school, of my patients, my society, and my life. So moving forward, I'm going to forego counting the days. Instead, I'll spend the rest of them focusing on being someone people can count on. Well, let's assume. As I say that, let's assume I try my best, okay? All right.